What if I told you a single event could shift the tide of a global conflict? A luxury liner turned casualty of war, the Lusitania. This ship, its voyage and its dramatic sinking are cloaked in mystery and controversy. It's a story of international relations teetering on the brink, a vessel unwittingly caught in the crosshairs, and the repercussions that echoed across the globe. So, let's dive into the depths of history and uncover the story of the Lusitania. To understand the Lusitania's story, we need to rewind to the world climate in the early 20th century. It was a time of great power struggles, a chessboard of nations vying for control and influence. The world was a powder keg filled with the explosive mix of national pride, territorial ambitions, and an escalating arms race. Europe was the heart of this tension, where the Industrial Revolution had fueled rapid advancements in technology and military might. The major powers, including Britain, Germany, France, and Russia, were locked in a high-stakes game of brinkmanship. Each nation was building up its military, developing new weapons, and forming alliances, all while keeping a wary eye on their neighbors. Germany, a relatively new player but an ambitious one, was rapidly expanding its navy, challenging Britain's long-held dominance of the seas. This naval arms race was not just about the number of ships or the size of the cannons. It was a race for technological superiority. Submarines, a new and terrifying weapon, were becoming a pivotal part of naval warfare. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the United States was watching the European scenario unfold, maintaining its stance of neutrality, but preparing for the possibility of being drawn into the conflict. In this tense atmosphere, the Lusitania set sail on what would be its final voyage. The Lusitania, a marvel of its time, was more than just a passenger liner. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, a testament to the great leaps in technology and engineering. The ship was a floating city with the capacity to carry nearly 2,000 passengers, and it was outfitted with the most luxurious amenities of the time. The Lusitania was also a microcosm of the world in the early 20th century. On board, you could find individuals from all walks of life. There were wealthy businessmen and socialites, artists seeking inspiration, families hoping for a fresh start in a new land, and even spies entangled in the intricate web of international politics. Their stories, their hopes, their dreams, all intertwined on this grand vessel. Among the passengers was Alfred Vanderbilt, one of the wealthiest men in America and an avid horse enthusiast. He was returning from a trip to England where he had been purchasing horses for his breeding farm. Then there was Elbert Hubbard, a famous writer and philosopher, and his wife Alice. The couple was on a mission to spread their philosophy of love and positivity across the Atlantic. And let's not forget Theodate Pope, one of the first female architects in America, who was returning home after a sabbatical in Europe. Each of these individuals, along with the rest of the passengers, had their own reasons for boarding the Lusitania that fateful day. For some it was a journey of leisure, for others, a voyage of necessity. But regardless of their reasons, they all shared a common belief in the safety and reliability of this magnificent ship. The Lusitania represented a beacon of hope and a symbol of progress in a world teetering on the brink of war. However, the Lusitania was not just a passenger ship. It was a vessel of strategic importance. It was a symbol of British naval supremacy, and its presence was a challenge to the German U-boats prowling the Atlantic. But the passengers were oblivious to the political undercurrents that surrounded their voyage. Little did these passengers know the fate that awaited them. Their stories, their dreams, and their lives were about to be eternally tied to the ill-fated journey of the Lusitania. May 7, 1915, a day that would go down in infamy. The Lusitania, a symbol of human achievement and a beacon of peace, was sailing off the coast of Ireland. Unbeknownst to her passengers, a German U-boat lurked beneath the waves, its sights set on the unsuspecting vessel. The time was 2:10 in the afternoon. With a sudden jolt, a torpedo struck the ship's starboard side. The impact was catastrophic. A second explosion quickly followed, its origin a mystery that continues to baffle historians. Panic ensued as the ship listed dangerously to starboard, the power failed, and the lights went out. The once majestic Lusitania was mortally wounded, and she began to sink. Confusion reigned on board. Lifeboats were launched hastily, some capsizing under the frantic rush of terrified passengers. Others were pinned by the ship's steep tilt, trapped in their davits. Desperate cries for help echoed across the water, a chilling testament to the human tragedy unfolding. The ship, once a symbol of luxury and elegance, was transformed into a scene of chaos and despair. Families were torn apart, with some members lost to the sea while others managed to cling to lifeboats or flotsam. The cold Atlantic took no prisoners, claiming over 1,000 lives that fateful afternoon. News of the attack spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves across the world. The sinking of an unarmed passenger ship was a direct violation of international laws of warfare. The loss of civilian life, including many Americans, marked a turning point in public opinion. The world watched in horror as the scale of the tragedy became clear. In less than 20 minutes, the Lusitania was lost, plunging over 1,000 people into the cold Atlantic. Its sinking marked a dark chapter in maritime history, a stark reminder of the human cost of war. It was a tragedy that would echo through the ages, forever altering the course of World War I. The sinking of the Lusitania sent shockwaves around the globe. The news spread like wildfire, and newspapers worldwide were awash with headlines of the tragedy. The British decried the attack as a brazen act of war, pushing for immediate retaliation against the German Empire. In contrast, Germany defended its actions, claiming the Lusitania was carrying contraband munitions, and thus, was a legitimate military target. But the impact of the sinking was felt far beyond the borders of Britain and Germany. Across the Atlantic, the American public, initially determined to remain neutral in the European conflict, found itself wrestling with a surge of anti-German sentiment. The loss of nearly 128 American lives on the Lusitania was seen by many as a direct affront to the United States' neutrality, and calls for action grew louder. Even as President Woodrow Wilson urged for calm and restraint, the public outcry was hard to ignore. The sinking of the Lusitania had effectively painted a grim picture of German aggression, and for many Americans, it was an image they couldn't shake off. It wasn't long before this shift in public opinion began to reflect in the corridors of power. Behind closed doors, the American government debated its next steps. While some officials still advocated for neutrality, others saw the sinking of the Lusitania as a clear justification for entering the war. Their argument was bolstered by the intercepted Zimmermann telegram, which revealed Germany's plans to ally with Mexico against the United States. Together, these events tipped the scales. In April of 1917, nearly 2 years after the sinking of the Lusitania, President Wilson asked Congress to declare war on Germany. His request was granted, and the United States formally entered the First World War, marking a pivotal turning point in the conflict. The world was watching, and the world was changing. The sinking of the Lusitania had not only claimed the lives of over 1,000 innocent people, it had also reshaped the course of history. It was a stark reminder of the devastating power of war, and its far-reaching implications. More than 100 years later, the Lusitania's legacy is still felt. The catastrophic event was a major catalyst in reshaping the world as we know it. It not only altered the trajectory of World War I but also brought about significant changes in maritime warfare. The sinking of the Lusitania led to an overhaul of rules and regulations governing the seas. It was a wake-up call that emphasized the need for new laws and protections for non-combatants at sea. Consequently, international maritime law saw a significant transformation, with clear guidelines established to protect civilian vessels during times of war. But the Lusitania's impact wasn't just confined to the seas. It left an indelible mark on global history, becoming a symbol of the sacrifices and tragedies of World War I. The incident served as a poignant reminder of the catastrophic consequences of war, a lesson that continues to resonate across the globe. Moreover, the Lusitania's story has been immortalized in numerous books, films, and documentaries, reflecting its enduring significance in popular culture. It stands as a testament to the power of individual events to shape the course of history, reminding us of the interconnectedness of our past, present, and future. The Lusitania's sinking, a pivotal moment, forever etched in the annals of history. The Lusitania's story is a stark reminder of how a single event can alter the course of history. A luxurious voyage turned tragedy, a world on edge pushed further into conflict, an isolated nation compelled to join the fray. The sinking of the Lusitania not only marked a turning point in World War I, but also changed the very nature of maritime warfare. As we look back, we're left with a question: how might the world look today, had the Lusitania completed its voyage?